Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby, if you are not familiar with me, and I love to talk all things personal finance, organization, and lifestyle. Today's video is going to be my paycheck routine. I did a video like this, I think about a year ago, and since then a lot has changed with the way that I manage my money. So I thought I would do an updated version of this video, and I'm going to walk through every single thing I do when I get paid to make sure that I am responsible with my money, that I am achieving my financial goals, while also making room for the things that I enjoy to spend my money on. Before we dive in, I want to just give a little background on myself if you are new here, so that you have a lot of context on my current situation, because that does dictate a lot of the reasons why I do certain things. So sorry if you can hear trains and the dishwasher. It's all happening right now. I will try to do my best to cut it out post-production, but if you can hear it, I apologize. As I mentioned, my name is Gabby. I am 30 years old. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I currently rent my space with my boyfriend. We split the rent down the middle. Our rent is currently $23.91, and this is for a 2-bedroom apartment here in Calgary, Alberta. We also pay $300 for parking in our building, which we also split down the middle, and we also pay a $40 per month pet fee. This was new to me. We used to just put a pet deposit down on the apartment, but in this new place, you have to pay a monthly pet fee. I currently have no debt. I own my car outright, and I don't have any student debt, no consumer debt, anything like that. Something that's really important for me with my finances is simplicity. I want everything to be well organized. I want it to be a self-sustaining machine. I don't want to have to do the nitty-gritty work with my money. However, I personally love using a budget tracker. I have a budget tracker that I sell on Etsy. I will leave it in the description box down below. It is the one I will be showing you today. And this is a very manual process, keeping my budget tracker up to date. So it kind of goes against my whole logic around simplicity, but I will explain why I love this method of tracking my money. It really helps me reflect on my financial decisions, on every single dollar I am spending. It is the process of actually going in and writing every single thing that I buy down that helps me really think about whether or not that was a good purchase. It also helps me rationalize how quickly dollar values add up when you are going throughout the month. If I was to just spend freely, I think in my head I would tell myself that I haven't spent that much, or I'm spending in a normal way. But often when you sit down and you total everything together, that's when you have those moments of, oh my gosh, this is really adding up. That's why I love to use a digital budget tracker, and that's why I love to meticulously go through all of my expenses and every single thing I do with my money in that budget tracker. Outside of that though, I don't want any difficulties with my money. I want things to be very streamlined, easy, and you will notice throughout this that I love automations for that exact reason. Okay, let's cover all of my income streams, and then I will go a little bit deeper into exactly how and when I get paid and what I do depending on what sort of payday I'm getting. So I have a typical salaried role at work. I am a salaried employee, so I get paid the exact same amount every 2 weeks. This is my stable income source. This is the majority of my income source, and it is what I primarily live off of. My variable income sources are all of my side hustles. So I am paid from Etsy, my digital products that I mentioned. I get paid from Etsy, and that is weekly. I am also paid from Gumroad. I also sell some digital products there, so that is also weekly. I am paid by YouTube, and that is a monthly payout around the 21st to the 22nd of every single month. And then I also make commission income and brand deals as well. Those are extremely variable, as I don't typically have these as sources of income, but they do come up here and there. So from my salaried role, I currently make $95,000 a year, and that works out to be around $2,714 bi-weekly on my paychecks. So I am paid bi-weekly, and this is actually my net pay after my EI, my CPP, and my taxes are deducted. I should mention that I do not currently have an employer match with work. I have no sort of investing program at work, so I don't do any investing before I am paid. All of that is done by myself after I am paid, and that's why it's so important for me to pay myself first once I am paid, to make sure that I am contributing to some sort of retirement plan or an investing plan. The amounts I typically make for my side hustles obviously vary, but I'm gonna give you around a general number that I've seen throughout this year. I typically make around $2,000 a month from Etsy. It can be above this and it can also be below this, but this is just a general average. I usually make about $110 a month from Gumroad, and then I average around $1,200 a month from YouTube AdSense. I am not going to include commission or brand deals in here because they're so variable that I just don't have a typical average amount, so we can just call that zero. Totaling up all of my income streams, this is for a 2 paycheck month. There are 3 paycheck months, but we're gonna just assume this is a 2 paycheck month because that's the majority of the year. And then my Etsy, Gumroad, and YouTube income, I will total that all up, and that's typically around $8,740 using all of those averages. We have just shy of $9,000 to budget with every single month. This is a great number. I used to make nothing from my side hustles, so I was making closer to the $5,000 mark every single month. And just by adding on a few $1,000s from my side hustles has made my life so much easier. There's so much more cushion to work with every single month. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna start with is the calendar view of a typical month. I'm gonna show you guys the September calendar view in my budget tracker, and this can just help you visualize exactly when I'm getting paid and also looking at all of when my bills are due as well. Let's take a look at the calendar view for September. You can see here in that my rent is due on the 1st, and that also includes my pet payment and my parking. That's like a typical bill that comes out every single month. You'll notice a couple other bills sprinkled in here. I'm not gonna cover those so much in detail right now. I will when we get to my typical bills portion of this video, but you can notice here that I am being paid from my salary roll on the 5th of September and then also the 19th of September. Then I have my Etsy pay, which is every Monday, every single week. So every single Monday I am paid from Etsy, and that is just however much money I made in the past week. I also am paid on the same sort of pay cycle weekly for Gumroad, so that is every single Thursday I am paid from Gumroad. So you can see here that because I have many different income streams, there are many points every single week that I am making money. And this is also an incredible thing because I don't feel like I'm counting down to payday like I used to. I used to always be like, when's payday? When's money coming in? I have a bill to pay, yada yada. I love having side hustles because it has really made it easy for me to always have income coming in. So for example, if my credit card bill is coming up and I'm a little bit short of how much money I need to pay my credit card, I usually only have to wait a few days before some sort of money is coming in. And this is like one of my favorite things about this side hustle that I've created. I haven't actually put in here my YouTube pay. Let's actually go down to the bottom here. So I will put in my YouTube pay, and that is usually the 21st or the 22nd of the month. I'm just gonna put it on the 22nd. So we can see here, like that's gonna be a Monday, and that should be also a day that I'm paid from Etsy. Okay, I hope that visual helped give you an idea of where money is coming in, how money is coming in. Next, I wanna talk about exactly what happens after I get paid. So I am a huge believer in paying yourself first, automating your investments and your savings, and this is the #1 thing I can recommend to anyone who is trying to improve their financial health. If you are able to, if you have money left over for after your bills and everything that are taken out, find an amount that you're comfortable with automating out of your pay. Especially if you don't have a employer match or an employer investment program, this is so critical. Otherwise, you're likely just hoping that you have money left over at the end of the month, which I think is a very poor way of going about your finances. So automations for me have been such a powerful tool. It simplifies my money because I am not actually physically moving money around. It just happens automatically. I don't even have to think about it. It happens the second I get paid. So that money is gone out of my account before I can even consider spending it. And this has really helped me lower my expectations of how much money I make. It has helped me feel like I make less money overall, so that money is not even mine to spend. It is just taken off the same way it would be done with like an employer program. I just don't even have to think about it. It just happens, especially if you don't have an employer match. This is one of my biggest tips in the entire world. To automate my pay, I currently use Wealthsimple. It is one of my favorite banking systems here in Canada. If you're a Canadian and you're not using Wealthsimple, what are you doing? This is by far my favorite banking platform ever. I bank entirely with Wealthsimple. I have my checking, my high yield savings account, my investments, my crypto. I have everything in Wealthsimple, and there's a reason why. It's just that I've tried other banks. Nothing compares to Wealthsimple. They're the best. The automations are also incredible. So I will walk you guys through all of my automations in Wealthsimple on my phone. Okay, I have pulled up my Wealthsimple app on my phone here. Another reason why I bank primarily with Wealthsimple is for the simplicity. simplicity. As I mentioned, I value simplicity over anything. And I find just having everything in one quick spot helps so much with knowing exactly where all of my money sits. I don't have to log in, log out, all of that stuff. I also love the UI in Wealthsimple. I just feel like it totals all your money up for you. I kind of know my net worth off the jump because everything is in here automatically. It's just such a great UI. So I'm a huge fan. If you aren't currently a Wealthsimple member and you are looking to join, I have a referral link. I will leave it in the description box down below. I believe we both get money if you sign up. Just a heads up if you use my link. Let's have a look at my accounts overall at the beginning here. So I have a checking account. This is my typical checking account, and I currently have $3,291 in this account. This is where I am paid my paycheck. This is like my money hub. I like to think of this as the place where money comes in and money goes out. I don't like to keep any substantial amount of money in this account. I usually only have anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 in here, and I am paid from Etsy, my salary, Gumroad. Usually every single dollar I make is transferred over into this account the second I receive it. I will get paid into this account, and then I have automation set up that will pull money from this account. Next, I have a joint couples account with my boyfriend. We actually opened this up last year. Our intention with this was to pay our credit card from this account. So we would both transfer over our half, and we would pay our credit card from here as well. This actually turned into more of just like a savings account for David. Every time I owed him money, I would send it into the joint couple account so that he could take it out, and he just kept it there and sort of made it his own little savings account. So we also are paid our health benefits that we get payouts from, like our insurance through work. We are paid back into this account for both of our accounts. So this is like another place that if it's like a couple related thing, we are paid out here. But yeah, this is more of just like a savings account for David. Next, I have my savings and my sinking funds. So this account has $29,426 sitting in it right now. This has all of my sinking funds and my emergency fund, and then also my business save account. So the only thing I separate out from this major account is my business taxes, because I want to know exactly how much money is in that account. But for all of my sinking funds and my savings accounts, I just keep them in one high yield savings account. And I know people like to do the buckets where they put money into different accounts just so they know exactly how much money is in those accounts. I find that too annoying, if I'm being honest. I used to do it in Wealthsimple. I just thought it was too complicated, too convoluted. And because I use my budget tracker, I know exactly how much money is sitting in all of my savings accounts. So I don't need to worry about splitting them up and all that. I just keep them in like one big lump sum in this account. Finally, I have my business taxes account. This is where I keep my business taxes that I need to pay at the end of the year from all of my side hustles. I currently have $13,152 in here. And yeah, that is all of my different cash accounts that I currently have. And this is just like the simplest way for me to do it. I used to love splitting up my savings accounts, and I just thought it was too complicated, so I don't do that anymore. As far as investing accounts, all of my investing accounts are within Wealthsimple. I am a Canadian, so I have Canadian tax advantaged accounts. I have a TFSA. I have both a managed and a regular self-funded account. Wealthsimple does manage investing accounts where it's like a robo-advisor and they invest your money for you. I no longer use these accounts. I have it open just because there's like $1 or something in that sitting left over when they sold all of my investments. When I decided to switch to self-driven investing, they basically left like $1 behind. So I can't like close that account, but I don't actually use the managed accounts anymore. I only use a self-driven investing account. So I have a TFSA, I have an FHSA, which is a first home savings account. Here in Canada, it's like a double tax advantage account. And then I also have an RRSP. This is a retirement investing account. And then I also have a non-registered investing account. I have an inheritance from my grandma when she passed away really young. So when I first got that money given to me by my parents, it was sitting in a non-registered account. For a long time there, I was transferring money from my inheritance to my TFSA just so I wasn't paying tax on those accounts. But now that I've gotten to the point where I can max those accounts out on my own, I usually only invest in my tax advantage accounts with my own money, and the rest of my inheritance is just sitting in a non-registered account. I also have a crypto account as well. I don't typically buy that much stuff in this account, but I do have a crypto account. So let's go over to my automations. So with Wealthsimple, there's many ways to automate things. You can automate literally anything. One of my favorite things automation-wise in Wealthsimple is the dividend reinvestment. So all of my dividends that I make in my accounts, I have Oh, just kidding. Need to turn those on. See, this is why I need to do this more often. All of the dividends I make in my investing account are reinvested into the same stock or ETF that was originally purchased. This is a great way to get that compound growth because the money that I make from my investments is reinvested and then it's growing over time and then I'm getting more dividends back. It's that compound effect that we love so much with investing. So huge fan of the dividend reinvestment. But we're gonna take a look at the automated pay portion here. So my direct deposits from my work, as I mentioned, go into my checking account. So I'm gonna go to checking and then you can see all of the automations that I currently have set up here. So every single time I get paid, $400 goes to my retirement account and I purchase the FIN ETF. Next, I have $300 that gets transferred into my savings account. This is for my savings and my sinking funds. Next, I have $250 that gets invested in my RRSP in the FCGS ETF. Next, I have $250 that gets invested in the FCUV ETF. And then I also have an additional $100 that goes into my savings and sinking funds account. The reason why these are split up is because I originally started with $300 at the beginning of the year. And as the year went on, I decided to turn up the dial on my automations. So I added an extra $100 every single time I got paid. And then I got used to that number again. So soon here, I'll probably add a little bit more. This is one of my biggest tips if you are automating your savings and your investments is pick a number, pick something that you think is gonna work, and then just see how it feels. If it's too much, you'll know right away. You won't have any money left over to pay your bills, etc. And then you can just turn it down. But if you are under investing, under saving, I would just, every once in a while, just turn this up $25, $50, $100. Just try adding a little bit more to it and you'd be surprised how much you adapt to the numbers that automatically get taken off. Like I always think it's gonna be a drastic change every time I add money to my automations and then I usually don't even notice it. And it's like you just adapt to it. Next, I have $100 that gets invested in my retirement account in FIN again. I must have had the same issue where I was just adding an additional amount of money to my investments, so I didn't want to delete the automation. I just added a new one. And then I also buy a little bit of the Fidelity Bitcoin ETF in my retirement account, $100 worth every single paycheck. So I could simplify this a little bit further by like lump summing some of these, but it doesn't change anything for me. So I'm good with the way it is. So every single time I get paid, the second I get paid, these get deducted from my paycheck. My investment strategy changes throughout the year. Basically at the beginning of the year when my tax advantage accounts have new contribution room, I will begin by investing as much as I possibly can in my TFSA until it is maxed out. I believe the limit this year was $7,000. Then I will move on to my FHSA, which is the first home savings account. That contribution room is $8,000. So I will invest until I max that out. And then I will move on to my retirement account, which is a tax deferred account. Basically, this means that your tax is paid later, hopefully when you have a lower marginal tax rate. So it lowers my taxable income for the year. And I usually get a bigger tax return by investing in the RRSP. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to max out my RRSP this year. I think it's gonna be really tight, but if not, my goal is to max it out next year. I have never maxed out my RRSP, so that is like my next investing goal that I'm working towards. If that happens, if I were to max out my RRSP, I no longer have any more tax advantage accounts, so then I would move on to investing in my non-registered account. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be working off of my salary income as like my payday that we're talking about. As I mentioned, I get paid $2,714 on payday every second Friday, and then I automatically have a deduction for my investing, which is $1,100 total for investing, and then I have a $400 deduction for my savings that comes out every single month. So after those deductions are taken off, I have $1,214 left over for my bills and my expenses. This would be much too low for me if I didn't have my side hustle income, but because I do have my side hustle income, it allows me to invest and save more with my salaried income, and then I usually live off of my side hustle income for the most part. I actually use my YouTube AdSense typically as my business taxes coverage, so I am kind of living off of my Etsy with the $1,200 that's left over from my salaried role. So how did I come up with $1,100 and $400? This is a great question. So I'm personally a huge fan of using percentages to determine how much you should be saving and investing. This is a great way of doing things because there are actually guidance numbers that you should be following. Experts say you should be investing at least 10% of what you make all the way up to about 25% if you want to aim for like early retirement retirement, things like that, then you can absolutely go beyond that. Experts also recommend saving about 10% of your income as well. So I do have a tricky situation because I have after-tax salary income and pre-tax side hustle income. I can't just like lump together the amount of money that comes in and then do the math of that, but I do currently invest 25% of all of the income I make in the month. That $8,700 amount, I just found what 25% was, and that was the $1,100. And then my $400 saving is just shy of the 10%. But I'm actually, if you think about it, investing and saving more than those percentages because of that pre-tax side hustle income. I have to put a certain amount of that money into taxes. I like to hit these numbers with that in mind, but realistically, I am actually hitting a higher investment and savings rate. And I really aim to invest and save together at least 30% of what I make. If I'm having a bad month, I hit the 30%. If I'm having a better month, I will hit beyond that. As I mentioned, I have to put aside 30% of what I make from my business income for taxes. And I also put aside 5% for my business save account. And this helps me save up for new camera gear or anything I need for making videos on YouTube. I personally do not change the amounts and the percentages that I save and invest every single month with automations. That would make this less fun and less easy. I like that the automations just cover my bases. But what I will do is if I have extra money at the end of the month, I will put more money into investments and more money into savings. I don't like to just let money sit in my checking account for no reason. Let's move on to the organization portion of this video. So the rest of this video is going to be talking about just how I organize my money, how I manage my money. So by far my main money management tool, my like ride or die, my favorite way of tracking all of my finances is by using a budget tracker. I use budget trackers for years and years and years before I created my own. So this is not just like self promo. If I hadn't created one, I would be using the one that I bought off Etsy a couple years back. So I absolutely love this method of tracking money. I used to use Mint and I used a couple other websites that automated all this stuff for me, and it never clicked. I just thought it was too complicated. I was always signing into my accounts. It just wasn't for me. I also found, like, you know, when you log in your banking app and it'll sort of do totals of like what you spent on each category for you. I thought that just like looking at that number when I sign in just didn't do much for me. Like, I'm like, okay, I spent $600 on eating out. And like, I like using a budget tracker because I have the references of previous months. I have references of my average for the year. I have references of what I did last year and the year before that I can quickly open up and look at. And it just helps like contextualize everything. And I think because I put time, energy, and effort into keeping my budget tracker up to date, it helps me process all of the money decisions I make. I don't know, there's something with the psychology of it that just works for me. It's just, as soon as I found budget tracking, I've never looked back. It's one of the best things I've ever done for myself, honestly. Okay, so I have the September budget table open here with my budget tracker, and I'm just gonna walk you guys through exactly how I manage, organize all of my money on a month-to-month basis. So I love this budget tracker because it has all of your totals you need. You actually can also track how much money is in all of your accounts at any given point. So this is like the balances in my checking account, balances in my savings account, balances in my credit card account. Obviously, you need to keep up to date in the expense tracker for these to be accurate and live. These are not like automatically updated. You have to put in your information, but I think it's a really great feature. You can also see totals for income, expenses, savings, investments, credit cards, debts, all at the top. So if you just quickly want to know exactly where you stand, that's a great way. One of the main things I love keeping track of is a 50-30-20 split, basically your needs versus your wants versus your savings rate. This just helps me understand how I am doing within the context of having variable income. If you make the exact same amount of money every single time you get paid, and then you typically spend within the same realm, then I don't know if this would be that beneficial month to month. Like, obviously it's great to see, but for me, having variable income, I allow myself to spend more if I make more money, as long as I'm keeping to my percentages that I want. So as I mentioned, like that 25% investment rate at the very least, that 10% savings rate at the very least, those are like critical numbers I want to hit. And then when I have variable pay, I want to make sure that I'm also contributing more to those things things. So this 50-30-20 split really allows me to understand how much I'm spending on my wants versus my needs versus my savings. And it is one of the first things I always look at every single month, which is very helpful. Once I get paid, once all those deductions, all those automations come off, basically all I have left to do is my spending, how much money I'm spending every single month. I split everything into my expenses and then my bills and subscriptions. So these are sort of what you can think of as like your variable expenses and then your fixed expenses. Bills would be the fixed, variable would be the expenses. My bills and subscriptions, we'll quickly walk through those. As I mentioned, my half of my rent is $11.95. My mobile plan is $70. My internet is $57. That's for my half. I pay for a climate initiative service called REN. It's like a subscription that is $16 every month. I also pay for half of our no, I don't pay this anymore. We used to have a couples Amex Cobalt. So that was a monthly fee. So we used to split that down the middle, but we actually just upgraded to an annual fee card. So we no longer have this. And then as I mentioned, we have half of the parking, half of the $300 is $150, and then half of the $40 pet fee is $20. So $1,500 is my fixed expenses. And for having a higher income, my fixed costs are quite low. And this is on purpose. I love having the flexibility to do what I want with my money. I could easily spend more on housing and, get a new car and things like that. I could easily do that, but that is something I want to avoid at all costs because those fixed expenses are incredibly hard to get out of. If I have a bad month and I spend too much at Aritzia, I can just stop it next month. It's not like I have to spend that every single month. That's what a fixed bill is. It's like you're forced to pay it every single month. So I would much rather have one bad month where I shop too much at the mall than sign up for a mortgage or a rent payment that I cannot afford. My bills are all taken out of my checking account or paid on credit cards automatically, so I do not have to think about it. My rent is actually an automatic transfer, don't have to think about it. All of my other bills are charged onto my credit card automatically, don't have to think about it. So I'm not like making transfers on certain days of the month. Everything just like works in the background, which I'm obsessed with. Then for expenses, this is the section that changes so much for me on a month-to-month basis. You can see I'm having a very high spend month this month. I usually typically will spend somewhere in the realm of like $2,000 to like $4,000. That's like my range, my typical range, depending on what's going on that month. I love this budget tracker because you can get as granular as you want. You can make as many different categories as you want, and then I can track exactly how much money I'm spending in all of these categories. And we can actually have a look at my annual total averages for these. So if you go to the annual tracker, and then we can go to the expense breakdown. So you can see that for the year, I'm averaging about $500 on groceries, about $230 on transportation, $270 on eating out, $115 on coffee, $165 on drinking and cannabis, $420 on clothes, $260 on beauty, $73 on fun, $220 on my cats, $163 on my health, $158 for gifts, $140 for home, $120 for miscellaneous. Travel is at about $588, very high. Donations are at $66, business expenses at $130, and then moving expenses, because I moved this year, at $372. So you can see here it's totaling everything up at about $4,000 for the averages, but obviously something like moving I'm not doing every single month. But that is pretty crazy to see that I'm averaging about $4,000 for my expenses. Another thing that I should mention is I am a credit card user. So I basically only spend on credit. I am almost never spending on debit unless it's like a bill payment or something like that. So to responsibly use credit cards, I will spend on my credit cards all month long, and then I just know exactly when my statement date and my due date are. So as soon as I get my statement date, I will get like my total I owe for that month. Maybe it'll say like $2,000 owed on the credit card last month. Usually you have a 2-week window to pay that credit card in before the due date, and I always make that payment, usually a single lump sum. I used to do like weekly transfers onto my credit cards, but that just added fluff. So I now just lump sum, I'll just do that exact amount, the statement amount, in that grace period, in that 2-week period, and then I never pay any interest, and I'm also not paying more than I need to. I don't know. I've done that before where I just try to like set my credit card to 0 every month, and it just doesn't work for me. I just like doing the statement balance and I don't pay any interest, no problems, you know? I also have a big emergency fund, so I'm not worried about having a credit card bill that I'm not able to pay. I'm always able to pay my credit card bills, and I know my ass is covered basically. And then another huge step of my payday routine is obviously coming into my budget tracker and tracking everything. So if you're unaware of how the budget tracker works, you go down to the expense tracker, and this is where you're gonna put in all of your information. So you can see here on September 5th, I had my payday, my last payday. So every single time I get paid, I will come in here and I will log that payment. So I would log it as income, and then I log all of my automatic savings and investments. And you can see here that I'm putting the savings into specific sinking funds in my budget tracker, which I will not do physically in Wealthsimple. So I can track all of the amounts in my sinking funds with this budget tracker, and I don't have to physically separate my money. So you can see I put 100 into my car fund, 100 into my cat fund, 100 into my personal flex fund, 100 into my holiday fund, which is like my Christmas fund, and then 1100 went straight into my retirement account. So that's like what happened on payday. And then usually every 3 to 4 days, I'm coming in here and I'm updating my expenses. So I'll just go to my credit cards, I'll look up exactly what I spent on, I'll plug it into here. I like using the money in, money out drop downs here. This is how you track your balances in your account. So this portion up at the top here, you don't have to do this. I always tell people, some people will message me and just say it's too complicated. And I said, you really don't have to use these drop downs. This is just if you want to. But I'm a huge fan of having the balances at the top being up to date if possible. I also love this budget tracker because you can just see like quick things like this. My top 10 spending categories. I'm spending the most on travel, and then my rent. Then I have like my fixed versus my variable percentages. So 22% spend on fixed, 59% spend on variable. Then we have our savings rate, our investment rate. These are all great metrics to have. As I mentioned, I want to be hitting that 25%. I want to be hitting that 10%. So I'm a little bit low right now, but I usually top up both savings and investments at the end of the month when I have some money left over. So yeah, that is basically the last step of my money management system. It really is just automations and then updating and maintaining this budget tracker. Everything else is working in the background for me. I don't have to do it physically myself. And that is one of my favorite things in the world. So for me, it is simplify what can be simplified and then keep the things that work. So the budget tracker just for me is just a method and a tool that has worked. It has proven to me that it works. I actually really enjoy updating my budget tracker. I really enjoy all the visuals and all of the data. I'm a data person. I love seeing the numbers. You can also see totals for the whole year at any point. You can see totals for debt payment. You can see totals for investments, for savings, all of that amazing stuff. Just such a big fan of a budget tracking system, but I've heard really great things about online tools. If you're not into like actual manual portion of this budget tracker, I know that there are so many online tools. So I'm sure there's a method that would work for you if this isn't like your ideal situation. Okay, I think that is my entire payday routine. I hope this was helpful. This felt a little bit chaotic. Hopefully with editing, I can make this like a little bit more cohesive. Just to like summarize, I have many different sources of income. Huge tip there. If you are currently struggling with income, I would highly recommend trying to find another source of income that could come at like maybe a more frequent rate. It really helps. After I am paid, I have all of my automations that deduct my money for me out of my payday, so I don't have to do anything myself. It just automatically happens. I also automate things like my bills and whatever can go onto credit cards. I will do that as well, so it's automatically being paid. If my credit card allowed me to have an automatic credit card payment, I would also do that. But the one thing that I have to remember to do every single month is to pay my credit cards. But I only have 2 I'm currently actively using, so it's very simple for me to keep track of those. And then it's just organizing and keeping track of everything. So using my budget tracker to track exactly how much money is going into all of my savings accounts and where my money is sitting. And then on top of that, I love using Wealthsimple just to quickly log in and see where my money is at. If you are interested in the budget tracker, as I mentioned, it will be linked in the description box down below. There was a 50% off coupon code for my YouTube family. And also the referral link for Wealthsimple will be in the description box down below as well. Thank you for using it if you're gonna use it. I really appreciate it. I hope you love it as much as I do. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. If you made it all the way to the end, what emoji should you leave? Can you leave a cat emoji? Thank you very much. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.